Fred was scolding Leo for always rushing in recklessly in every battle, but he kept on surviving because of Fred's healing magic. Even Leo knew this, so he thanked Fred for always helping him. Fred continued lecturing, saying that Leo wasn't even the only pain in the ass for him, but he was still the most reckless, so he gave Leo an artifact that could counteract low-level magic targeting him. Leo happily thanked him for it, but Fred hit him in the head before saying that he needed to use it so he didn't have to constantly heal him. Yuusha saw their interaction. She wondered why Fred couldn't be honest for once, while Leo couldn't even realize how Fred was worried for him. She couldn't understand how Leo had all that strength but had zero emotional intelligence, and she thought Fred was going to blow up on him eventually, so she told Max that if anything ever happened, he would have to play referee. Max felt troubled thinking about it. He thought it would be a big responsibility, but Yuusha said that she would be counting on him. Sarah was carefully watching Max, Fred, and Leo's situation through her smartphone. She was even doing a play-by-play, so her mom, who was about to give birth, complained that it wasn't the time for it. Max was still on the ground after receiving Fred and Leo's attacks. The citizens had a hard time recognizing him. They thought that he had aged like milk. After getting up, Max picked up the candy Sarah had given him, and then he thought that he was really too old to fight. At the same time, one of the prime ministers was addressing the public through a press conference, and the reporters were asking if Fred had been thrown under the bus and if the kingdom was actually in danger. However, they started talking about Max instead, and the minister was surprised when the reporters told him that Max had joined the battle. Minister Franca and Menihild were glad that Max finally showed up. However, Sezek reminded them that Max isn't in his prime anymore, and she also added that even if he won, he wouldn't just bend to the kingdom's will. Fred wasn't happy with Max's arrival, while Leo thought that he came to solve the kingdom's crisis. Fred wasn't happy to hear his words. He argued that he wasn't a big deal like he thought he was, but Leo didn't care. He confidently declared that he would take on both of them and protect the Republic's people and its land. The two continued bickering. Fred called Leo and his allies criminals, but Leo reminded him that it was the kingdom that was trying to steal their land. Max told the two to shut up before saying that they were just using the situation as an excuse, and then he declared that he would beat them up as he was tired of their foolish talks. Minister Franca and Menihild were surprised by this development, but Sezek saw it coming, and she thought that they just needed to sit back and enjoy the mudslinging contest. Fred wasn't happy with Max's interference. Max argued that he didn't care about what they were fighting for, but their actions pissed them off, so now it was personal. Because of this, Leo realized that Max didn't come as Fred's backup, but he didn't care either way, and all they know is that the last man standing wins. The battle restarted with Fred bombarding Max with his attack, and although he managed to block it, he didn't have any time to catch his breath as Leo came at him in full force, and he seems to have the upper hand. Hayward thought that they could only observe how the battle would unfold, while Zeman was wondering if it was punishment for their previous actions. Max could only defend against Leo's continuous attacks, so Leo was mocking him for being slow, and even when he finally found the chance to counterattack, Leo easily dodged it and slashed at his waist. However, before Leo could finish him off, Fred bombarded them with his magic. Leo easily blocked Fred's attack, but it wasn't the same for Max, as he was already covered with injuries. Fred couldn't understand why Max would interfere, even though he was just getting beaten up, but Max argued that he hadn't fought for years, so they shouldn't have expected him to be close to his prime. Fred was disappointed in Max, but he was also enraged and wanted to kill Max, so he couldn't embarrass himself further. Max was defenseless against Fred, who blasted him with magic until he couldn't move anymore. Because of his sorry state, the citizens wondered if he was actually dead. Max thought that he never had a chance to win from the start, and that he should have never rushed into the battle. But he remembered how he always used to remind everyone to never give up, even when the odds were against them. Although they had even beaten all kinds of demons, they were completely helpless when facing a dragon. Because of the dragon's ability to fly, Fred and Yuusha's attacks weren't as effective, and although Leo was still confident of shielding the team, Fred's healing wouldn't be able to keep up for long, so he even regretted that they had started fighting the dragon. However, Yuusha hit his head with her staff before telling him to stop dwelling on the past, and they would continue fighting with every ounce of strength they had left. Yuusha condensed her magic into a pellet and shoved it in Max's mouth. Yuusha explained that Maximum Drive is a special buff made from condensing all of her magic. However, its effect wouldn't last for long, so he couldn't waste his chance and finish off the dragon in one shot. Leo blocked the dragon's attack before Max flew and slashed his sword at the dragon. Going back to the present, Max regained his will to fight. However, he couldn't stand back up, so he had to crawl towards the candy that Sarah had given him. Fred and Leo noticed that it was the pellet containing Yuria's condensed magic, but it was too late to do anything as Max had started chewing it, immediately putting him into maximum drive. Seeing Yuria's silhouette behind Max, Leo remembered the old times when their group fought together, while Fred was just pissed that she got involved as well. Yuria reminded Max that the buff wouldn't last long, so he would need to settle the battle quickly. However, she knew it wouldn't be as simple, as Fred and Leo are also familiar with maximum drive. Afterwards, she apologized that she couldn't join the battle due to her pregnancy. Then she told him that she has faith in him and that he needs to beat them up and give them a taste of their own medicine. Fred tried to attack Max. He was still enraged because of Yuria's interference, but this time Max appeared in front of him, swinging his sword, before he could cast his spell. After dodging Max's attack, Fred cast his spells and bombarded Max with countless energy blasts. However, Max easily blocked all of them, even the powerful spell he had channeled. Max didn't waste any time. He appeared above Fred before slashing his sword, and the barrier protecting Fred couldn't block Max at all. He was thrown away outside the platform after receiving the attack. While Max was looking down at Fred, he noticed that Leo was coming his way. This time, Max could easily keep up with Leo, and their powerful attacks quickly destroyed the platform where their intense battle was happening. Will was on his way to the battle's location while carrying Joe on his back, but he was surprised when he saw an injured kid lying on the ground close to the battle. It was Maou. She regained her consciousness after receiving some treatments from Will. She immediately recognized him, but he had no idea who she was as she was in her schoolgirl form when they previously met. Maou immediately asked about what happened to Max before asking if he had a smartphone. Max and Leo's intense battle is still going. Although Max broke Leo's sword, it didn't hinder Leo at all, and he even taunted Max, knowing that his maximum drive would be over anytime soon. But Max just told him to shut up before making his move again. The ghost was also watching the battle, and she was cheering for Max to kick Leo's ass. Fred finally got up again, but he was in a sorry state after Max's attack. He couldn't understand why they were all fighting like a bunch of children, but he was still blaming it on Leo for defying the kingdom, and he thought that if Max had cooperated from the start, they would have solved everything without having to pulverize each other. He couldn't see how Max would solve their problems even if he managed to win, and his only option was to replace him as the kingdom's lapdog. He was upset that he was surrounded by idiots, but he started asking himself if he was actually the idiot. Max and Leo's intense battle was at its end, but before Leo lost consciousness, he warned Max of Fred, who had already formed a gigantic ball of energy aiming to finish off the two of them. However, someone blasted it apart before it could reach Max and Leo. It was Maou, and Fred finally realized that she was really the demon lord from 10 years ago. Max didn't let this chance slide as he appeared behind Fred while swinging his sword at his shoulder. The citizens cheered for Max after seeing his victory, but they started wondering if it was actually a good thing and what the kingdom's action would be regarding this. After dragging Fred and Leo, Max looked for the camera. The citizens watched in anticipation for his next actions, and they were surprised when Max bowed down and started apologizing. He apologized that Fred and Leo had dragged everyone into the mess, but he asked everyone's help for a solution to the problem without his friends having to fight. Xenia couldn't understand what Max was trying to do, but everyone else could just stare at their laptop or smartphone screen, completely speechless as Max continued to beg for a solution to solve the situation without violence. Maou had a warm expression while staring at Max, who was willing to do anything to protect his friends. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to drop a like if you enjoy this video, and please subscribe so you won't miss the next part. And just comment down any anime you want to see in this channel.